Today we're going to learn about designing for complexity. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about me, Decision Theater, for about 45 minutes. That's all I've ever wanted. No, we're going to talk about me. We're going to do some quick introductions. Then we're going to learn about what complexity is. And then we're going to learn about scaffolding. And then we're going to have a quick interactive activity. All right. Who am I? I'm that person. I'm a UX designer at Decision Theater. TLDR, what I do is I take stakeholder requirements, I talk to end users, see if end users agree with stakeholder requirements, and I put them together into a nice little scaffold to hand over to our graphic designer and our development teams. And then I'm also a faculty associate at Arts, Media, and Engineering. I teach AME 220, Introduction to Front-End Design. Or sorry, development. Design's a... All right, Decision Theater, who are we? Our mission is to transform decision-making through the co-creation of data-driven tools, methods, experiences that engineer curiosity, experiences, sorry, I'm reading like this, explore possible future, empower societies to address complex and global challenges. Broad statement. Basically, what we do is we partner with different members of the community, so local government, municipalities, we work with researchers, and we help them create tools that help them help you. So that is the long and short version of it. We are known for our drum, which is a giant room with 7 screens, but we're so much more than that. We host web apps, we create facilitated engagements, we do workshops. We are here in Brickyard and here in Washington, DC, but we have way more locations coming soon. All right, let's get right into it. Designing for complexity means that uncertainty and change are okay. How many of you just got really nervous that I just said that? Right? Well, why would we want to design for complexity? If uncertainty and change are okay, why would we design for it, right? Number one, it gives you and your organization credibility that you are able to adapt and handle uncertainty. If someone comes to you and says, I want to build a dashboard, I don't have all the data yet, but I know what I want to build. If you say, sure, we can handle that, you're more likely to build trust with your stakeholder than saying, no, thank you, come back to us when you have the data. Because you don't know the data, because you are embracing your uncertainty, you are talking to people and you are talking to end users, and you say, hey, instead of us coming to you with what we've built, help us help you build something. That makes your dashboard more geared to something that someone finds valuable. Raise of hands, how many people get something in their inbox and you're like, what am I supposed to do with this dashboard? I saw one hand and I said, wow, that sucks. Right? We've all been there. I've been there. I even signed up for stuff and I'm like, who dare sign me up for this? It was me, I'm the villain. And then it allows for iterative processes, creative feedback mechanisms. The feedback button, I know some of you guys hate it. When you see the feedback button on a website, that's my fault. I'm the one that's wanting your feedback. I'm the one that's pestering you. Because I'm pestering you because I'm uncertain if that what I built is what you care about. And if you tell me what you don't care about and what you do care about, I can make it better. So lean in, do those surveys, after call surveys, after website surveys, just do it. And then you've gone through it before, you can do it again. It provides structure and scaffolding for different changes or projects in the future. If you've done it before, you can do it again, you can apply the same scaffold. And then the last one, which I didn't put in, is frustration. Frustration on your end. Because lesson learned, when you are a designer, UX designer, and you're designing something, and then someone comes up to you and says, oh, wait, The data isn't there. How frustrated do you get? You're sitting here. This is the most zen I've seen. How many of you guys would you get frustrated? Be honest. Okay. I was gonna be like, oh boy. You get frustrated, right? You're like, why am I spending so much time building something that you don't know you want? If you embrace uncertainty, you're already being like, you already have set the expectation for yourself that it's going to change. And when you embrace that, you're going to find that you're going to enjoy so much more. Helps if I hit the right button. All right, Ishrat, you're selling me real hard on something I don't know about. What is complexity? Well, to go complex adaptive systems. Let's do it. Mathematical formula. Except we're going to do the short version. A complex adaptive system is a group of parts or elements that interact with each other and adapt to changes in their environment over time. Each part follows their own simple rules, but when combined, these interactions can lead to unpredictable and often surprising behavior at a whole system level. Wow, that's a lot. Do we engage with these all the time? Absolutely. We see these every day. Our nervous system, ecosystems, driving. Today we're going to talk about designing dashboards within it. But let's talk about driving. Who drove here today? There we go. That's the engagement I love to see. You drive here. My commute is, I get on the 60 at Greenfield Road. I take it for what seems 1,000 years because of traffic. I get off on Mill. I make a right on Mill on 7th, and I somehow make it to work. One day, I check my phone. I check Google Maps. How many of you check Google Maps before you leave? Apple Maps. Yeah. What happens when you see that there's an accident? You change your route, right? That's a change in the adaptive system. Maybe you're not the only one that's checked Google Maps. Maybe you're not the only one that's changed their route. And now the changed route is the slowest route, right? Happens with the billboards. Dashboards are the same way. All a dashboard is in a complex system, in a complex world where nothing is simple anymore, it's just a pattern of data visualizations that have been organized into a hierarchy. That's it. Okay. Complex systems have rules. We have boundaries. What's our boundary? Rules of dashboard creation. We have a series of inputs that get, so let me know if me walking around gets a little distracting. We have a series of inputs. They get aggregated into a dashboard. Users use that dashboard, and based on that dashboard, they make decisions. Simple, right? The rules of our data structures. Our data source has multiple inputs. Those inputs might have multiple tables. Those tables might have multiple tables. But these are our rules. These are our cars on the freeway, our commute. But what is it really like? We're actually going to go through a complex system right now. We're heading over to somewhere, and we've checked Google Maps, so let's go. Our example is Tempe has said, hey, can you please create a dashboard addressing Tempe's sustainability goals? Great. We want these to be able to, our stakeholder goals say, maybe it's the mayor. Lucky us. The mayor says, I want this to be accessible to the general public. I want this to be accessible to the Chamber of Commerce. I want this to be accessible to the, I don't know, other parts of Tempe government, fire department. But those are their goals. So we've identified our end users. We've identified their stakeholder goals. But, you know, we have the general public. We have some person in the Chamber of Commerce. We have someone in the Better Business Bureau. We have someone who's more focused on the economic side. And then they have a list of questions to be answered, right? How are we doing on recycling? What's our recycling quota? How's our water consumption? How carbon neutral are we? Where do we get our energy from? Are we heavily fossil fuels? Are we using renewables? So while that's happening, you know, you have your, is there a laser? No, there's an other side. Oh, there we go. But you don't look directly into a laser. So you're identifying metrics. You're identifying your data sets. You're like, you know what? I know a data set. I'm going to pull it from SRP. You can find out the breakdown. We have a data set from a PS. Great. Well, that's happening. Maybe you have a UX designer who's talking to the general public or members of the Chamber of Commerce. And I'm getting what they want out of those dashboards. And at the same time, we're doing market research. How is Paradise Valley doing the same thing? Is LA doing the same thing? Is a city bigger than ours, New York City, how are they doing things? So we're doing market research. All right, so then we found out what the users want, what the users need, what they find valuable, and we have features, and then we've identified our metrics and our data set, we've got our data. Simple, right? It's usually how it goes. You wouldn't be here if this is how it usually goes. What if you don't know your end users? What if you know a guy who knows a guy? And those end users are going to be driving what your dashboard is. What if the metrics that you are trying to measure is actually coming from those user requirements? What if that's what you need to find? What if you don't, they know sustainability, but they want to make it so that people of the community will use it. So your questions to be answered are actually coming from the users. Maybe users don't care about how much water we're using. They want to know, is my water sewer trash going to go up if we start trying to make it more water efficient? Is my recycling going to go up? Is there going to be water in the future? Maybe you need to use the features that you've identified to identify your metrics. Maybe you need to do that. Maybe the market research is driving what question needs to be answered. Hey, Scottsdale has a measure of how much coverage is used by solar. This isn't true. Don't look it up, but it's an example. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is good dashboards are living artifacts. They adapt, they change, they grow. Okay, how do we do this, right? We are operating within a set of rules. How do we make sure that when we're designing our dashboard, we're designing our dashboard so that it can live, it can grow? For this example, we're going to use somewhat living structures, save one. So let's think about our rules as scaffolds, right? We're building something. Scaffolds are used across when you're building something so that you can get access to it when you're building the walls, the guts, all of that sort of stuff, right? We're going to do the same thing. We're going to use the example of barns, beehives, and spider webs. So warning, the next slides have pictures of bees, tiny holes. I won't be looking at that because I have a fear of tiny holes and of a teeny tiny spider. Don't want to. All right. So to design for complexity, you need to ask 3 questions. Do we know why we're building something? Do you know what we're building? Do we know how we're building it? And hopefully these are changing at the same time I'm talking, or else it would be really lame. But the great thing about embracing uncertainty is that you don't have to answer all of these all at once. If you know the answer to some of these things, that's okay. If you don't know the answer to 2 of these things, that's okay. It gives you a plan of attack on what you need to scaffold next. So let's go ahead and go through these examples. First is a barn. Barns, we know what we need to build and why we need to build it. I need a structure so that my cows don't get cold. I need to keep all of my hay. I need to keep a tractor. You can tell I grew up in the suburbs where I'm just like, we know what goes into it. Animals, farm stuff, right? We just need to know where we're going to build it. Are we going to build it on the corner of the farm? But we have our boundaries, right? And it's going to be on our property, right? Let's take a look at a barn example. I couldn't find a good simple one, so I'm just going to toot my own horn. This is something I made for my master's project. It was a proof of concept to see how we could measure patients in a waiting room at low cost for low income communities. Basically, what you need to know is that I created a data set of fake patients, and I created a dashboard so that individuals can know who's in the waiting room. Simple. Spoilers. Here's my scaffold of a opening of a barn. I'm not in UI, so I can't be fancy. This is my data set. Patients in the waiting room. Very clear, very straightforward. I have very clear columns. I need to know what status they're in. Are they being triaged? Are they being seen? How many people are in the waiting room? How many people have been seen? What are some of the conditions that these people are in? What level of criticality are they? And then the door is the uncertainty. Are the patients in the waiting room that have not been seen? Pretty simple, right? Sometimes it's easy. You know what your data set is, you deploy. It's still a complex system. It's still complexity, right? Am I going to do it on Tableau? Am I going to do it in Power BI? Am I going to do it hardcore JavaScript D3.js? It's still in a complex system, but it's very straightforward. What if we don't know? What if we are in a beehive? In this structure, we have a goal or answer, or a goal or a question we want to answer, right? So in my previous example, if I had said, I want to know what is Tempe's trend for water conservation, right? So there's a lot of things that go into that question, right? Think about that as the queen bee. Bees have one goal. How do we protect the queen, right? Well, to protect the queen, we need to grow the hive. To grow the hive, we need to create chambers for brooding. Okay, to grow chambers for brooding, we need to provide food for the bees. Again, I grew up in the suburbs. Don't come for me. So we have multiple questions feed up into that first hierarchy, right? So we just need to figure it out. Now we need to figure out what the end user wants. What does the queen want? The queen needs food. Queen needs worker bees. Queen wants to grow the hive. But if you've seen multiple types of beehives, you guys know that if you've gotten those alerts on your phone, bees on Poly campus, bees in trash cans on Poly. You can see the old school Winnie the Pooh ones, the ones that you see in the wild. You've seen them in trash cans. You've seen them in apiaries. The cool thing about beehive structure slash scaffold is that it doesn't matter how you do it. It'll always grow. So think about when who is it on TikTok? She's the queen of the bees, where she'll save the bees. She takes the queen bee, she safely takes them, puts them in an apiary, and then the hive continues to thrive, right? Same thing. We're going to look at a hive example. This is one that Decision Theater did. Good, a few of you. This is answering the question, where does our food, energy, and water come from? So let's select Arizona. It's loading the data. It is showing inflows, so goods coming into Arizona, across multiple locations. So it asks a couple of questions, like, okay, what goods are coming into Arizona? Are we looking at goods going out of Arizona? What are those goods? What are those goods classified as, right? Who are the top contributors? Who are the top consumers? Well, let's see what it looks like in this hive example. The queen bee, where does our food, energy, and water come from? What are the flows of goods? How do we showcase flows going in and out of a location? And what are the supply chain metrics like for a location? Remember, dashboards are a collection of organized data sets that have been aggregated, right? Okay, to get what are the flows of goods, we need to find the directionality. We need to showcase geodata about the counties. I used counties, but we need to get GeoJSONs. And then, so that kind of self-organizes into the flows view, the outflow. It showcases into an analytics view, which I didn't showcase because I can't answer a single question on that view. All right, now we have spider webs. What if you have a theme? Like my example, show me Tempe's goals towards sustainability. It's okay. We have a starting point. What we do is we engage at something called human-centered design, a decision theater. And what human-centered design says is, we are going to work with you to define what you care about. So you meet with users, members of the community, you learn their stories, you use their stories to weave together your dashboard. So we go, we say, hey, what do you care about? Hey, what are some concerns that you have about this project? And while we don't immediately know how, we need to learn, we know what we don't know the how is, which is a weird sentence to say, but follow me. This is a spiderweb result. I was really hoping it looked better on this big screen, but we were asked by an anonymous donor to help the big island of Hawaii reach its sustainability goals. And what we did was we went through this spiderweb scaffolding and meeting with the community, and we created a seven screen interactive facilitated experience. So at Decision Theater, we have 7, I think, 80-inch TVs that are in a drum. Each one of these things you see on there is part of that interactivity. I'll take down the whole thing with me. But how did we get there? So again, human-centered design. We are just a little spider. Our human-centered design helps us weave. A couple of things that we know that we do not know. We know why we're building it. We want to help the community of the big island of Hawaii. We know what we need to build. So we know we need identified metrics. We need to identify those, and we need to know those data sources. We also know that we have 2 very clear boundaries that we need to work within, and that's the cultural relationship within the island of Hawaii. You don't want to be a university that's in the middle of the desert going to an island saying, hey, this is what you need to do, right? And then there's the historical relationship with the island and the continental US. Again, you don't want to be someone coming from the continental US saying, hey, we know better than you do, right? So how do we do it? What the team did was we showed empathy. Those 2 connections you see, those are our partners on the island. We talk to them and we say, hey, we're coming to the island. We need your help. Help us help the island. They connected us with other people. And so in that connection with other people, we learn about their concerns, their desires, what problems they face, what solutions that they would like to see. They connected us with other people with maybe similar questions, concerns, requirements. And then those people told us what they wanted. And so once we identified our metrics, we were able to get, some people even gave us data sources. The cool thing is, the team built a spider weaving tool to help facilitate these conversations. And that's how they acted like a spider. But as you can see, it was a little network we had to build. We started with a known, and then we worked our way around kind of like a little spider. All right, here's a cheat sheet. At the foundation of it, you need to know why you're building something. If someone comes to you and tells you, I want you to build me a dashboard, great. What do you want me to build? I don't know. Okay, what problem are you trying to solve? You guys just seem cool. Okay, what's your organization about? We're just some guy, right? Are you really going to spend time building something? And if you do build something and they change their mind, are you going to be happy about it? Is it going to build relationship between you and your customer? Is it going to bring credibility? No. All of these. The number 1 rule in complex systems for design is that you need to know the why. Why am I doing this? It doesn't have to be, oh, I have a full data narrative. This is what I want users to take out of it. It can just be a theme. Sustainability. Wind, solar, Just tell me something, right? And then you have like the algebraic x, which means it's variable, right? At some point you'll get there. All right, that's great. You've given me conceptual. What does that even mean in the real world? I'm not gonna showcase a beehive to my customer. Look, I built you a barn. I'm gonna say, you did what with the money? You wireframe, you sketch, you draw on a piece of paper, you go into a fugue state and you scribble something. Your scaffolds are your train of thought, right? And as you organize your train of thought, you want to put it down onto something tangible. So that's why you wireframe. You sketch, you draw. Everything you saw started with a wireframe. Even the really, really simple one, I wireframed it out. So just, you don't have to do something fancy like prototyping and seeing what clicks do what. You just need create a paper scaffold, boxes that say this is where things go. All right, we're gonna do a fun little quiz. I'll provide the link to this guy at the end of the video presentation. You can tell I've been teaching online courses because I'm like, at the end of the video, take the quiz. So this is something I built. It's called What the Scaffold. We're gonna walk through an example and we're going to see what we're building, right? And this is going to be like majority picks sort of quiz. So I will require like hands up, if that's okay. All right. Here is the prompt. I love crows. My license plate is Amberb. Love birds. Love birds so much. They're so cool. You've been tasked to create a dashboard by me to determine the intellect of corvids, crows, ravens, magpies, I think blue jays. And you don't have a data set yet, but you've been given the name of several ornithologists that can assist. And ornithologists are individuals who study birds. And they have an interest in the work you're doing. They're invested, they're bought in. You've also been tasked to make this dashboard available to the general public. All right? So let's do this. Do we know why we're building a dashboard? Do we have a mission statement, something that says that we know what we're doing? So how many of you say we don't even know where to begin? All right. Clear goals, clear outcomes. All right. We have a question we want to answer. Okay. I'm not going to bother with the next one because. All right. Do you know what you're building? Do you know who's going to be using your dashboard? So what we're building, if you remember, I had two parts to it, right? The user experience side, the human-centered design side, and then the technical side. So let's talk about the human-centered design side. Do you know who would be use it? Maybe we did. Let's go back to the prompt. We have, really wish this would zoom in. Oh, she said as it promptly told me to sit down. We have ornithologists and it has to be available to the general public. Kind of a leading question, but do we know who is going to be using the dashboard? We have an idea. I'm just gonna throw that out there. Yes, we have a core group that we know will be using the tool. All right. We've identified groups of end users, but not specific ones. All right. And we've been given some names to engage with. Okay. So I think this one got it. Okay. Do you know what your building part? Oh, I didn't do the math right. You should always play test. Do you know how you're getting your requirements? Do you know how you're getting your technical requirements? Remember, this is, I want graphs. I want it to be able to export. Here are the specific metrics I want. Here are the data sources I want. All right. Who says no idea? All right. Who says we have a document, requirement document done by a business analyst that's been signed off by stakeholders? Okay. We have goals we wish to accomplish. All right. Well, we need to engage with our end users to learn more about what they want. All right. Okay, do you know how you're building it? Do you know your data sources? And this kind of feels like they're tied together, and that's on purpose because sometimes the how is tied together with the what, right? So this one is kind of a leading question, but we'll go through anyway. Data sources are the internal structure to create a full dashboard. Watching the time. We don't know what we're going to deliver. Who says that? Yes, we know exactly what we're going to deliver and where it is. We know some and are building others at the same time. And we're working with our partners to determine sources and metrics. All right, finally, do you know your uncertainties? Everything's uncertain. I don't even know why I'm here. Who says that? Get out. None to very few. This is actually pretty straightforward. Some, however, we organize our data and dashboard to be able to adapt to strategies. All right. And then many, but we know our unknowns. Ooh, this one was tricky, wasn't it? All right. One other, only because it was by like 2 or 3. All right, let's see what we got. We're building a spider web. It's almost as if I built this on purpose. We know what we're building. We have a vague idea. You should know what you don't know. And you know how you're going to be doing workshops. You're going to be doing like user engagements. And you are trying to investigate what data you're going to deliver. So you can play again. I'm going to provide this link later. What if you go to question number 1? Let's see what happens. You need exploration. If you do not know why, do not even bother with the rest of it, right? Because if you don't know why you're gathering this data and you're putting it together, if you don't know why you're putting it on Tableau so that people can see it, if you don't know why someone or the other big MC is going to look at this dashboard, like, what's the point, right? You're just basically shouting into the ether, and you're going to get a bunch of why do I have this in my inbox? So this is going to be available in the slides. So in summary, certainty and change is to be expected and embraced. I want everyone to say it with me. Uncertainty and change is to be expected and embraced. I should have had the other one. For designing for complexity, you need to know why you're building something. Why am I even here? You design for complexity by creating scaffolds or structures that can be expanded or contracted as needed, like they are a living artifact. Dashboards can emerge because we've created focused collections of data visualization views. And the result is that people trust your dashboard and trust you more because you were able to grow and breathe versus waiting for data. All right, summary of links. Oh, it's a link, but this is to the game if you guys are curious. Any questions? Because I think I have 10 minutes. I can do math. I have 10 minutes. Are there any questions? I was that good. No one has, thank you. No one has any questions. Comments? Oh, thank you. Yeah.
I honestly don't even know if the recordings are working today. So I know the environment I'm used to working in, what I came up in, is very different from what you're describing because I've rarely had to differentiate stakeholders from users. Usually they're one and the same. And so the thoughts through my head were how much simpler that hierarchy was when you don't have to make that distinction. So I'm wondering, to turn this into a question, because it's the question segment. How would you potentially approach these projects differently when your stakeholders are your users?
Yeah, I mean, great question. Do stakeholders have needs? Yeah. Are they famously very vocal about their needs? Are they famously telling you what they value, what they don't value? Right? You can still go through these same things. End users are just, all end users are people who are going to touch your tool, right? All they are things, are people who are going to use the dashboard that you have created, and they're the people on the other side. So stakeholders and end users sometimes are the exact same thing. Sometimes they all value different things. They all value, they all find different things of value to them. Sorry, that's the same thing twice. But they need guidance sometimes in articulating and identifying. So you can say, I use the example of user stories. That's a very UX, this is getting my specific term. But if you say that Ishrat is a UX designer at Decision Theater who values succinct one-page data, that's a user, that's basically the same thing as saying Ishrat is a member of the Gilbert public that wants to know how much water is going into the turf. You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter if you're the president of the university or if you're just someone on the street, you're both end users if you still use that dashboard. You just value different things. Yeah. I have the hearing of like an octogenarian. It's okay.
So the process of collecting feedback, how do you make sure, how do you give the right prompts to get your users to give you useful, or is it just free for all, give me feedback, and then you just go through the process of figuring out what the feedback means?
Yeah, sure. So what do I do, or how do I engineer my user feedback, right? That's UX research. I mean, sometimes it's just as easy as saying, hey, did you like this dashboard? One is the lowest, 5 is the highest. Hey, did you like this feature? 1 is the lowest, 5 is the highest. If you have, I mean, you can also do like the data analytics, Google Analytics thing where it's like, oh, engagement, time on page, that sort of thing. But sometimes you just ask the question. I know we tend to overcomplicate things, but sometimes just asking like, hey, here's this new feature. What do you think about it? In your feedback forms. Yeah. Man, you guys are making me get my steps in.
I was just going to kind of jump in and also answer that question a little bit. I've had Zoom meetings where I'll show them the new dashboard, and then in Zoom you can give users control. And then I ask them a couple questions like, "Hey, could you find, XYZ number or answer this question?" And then I literally just watch what they do. So if they're going to the wrong area, it's like, okay, clearly I need to make these filters bigger or more obvious. So you can do a little deductive reasoning. It's not quite advanced UX research, but it's, what I can do just on the fly.
That's exactly what I do. I say, hey, here's the dashboard, rip it apart. I mean, he does it eloquently, but I say, here's the dashboard. Usually my user research is like, hey, if I ask a question, my user research, and I say things like, can you guys, how hard was it to find the value of how much water Tempe is using for agriculture? And if they say, I couldn't find it, I know that's hard. Like sometimes users are a little hesitant because they want to be polite and they don't want to say like, this is bad. So I just usually give them like, hey, here's something, like, how hard was it to find? And then they submit it in a survey. They can do it over Zoom. I have very vocal stakeholders. They'll also straight up interrupt me and say no. So yeah, feedback is a science. Trying to engineer people to tell you what they feel is a whole thing. Human factors engineering. That's at ASU. All right. Any other questions, comments? Once? I know. I auction.
And you have the DCR.
I mean, I'm not, but well, they are a partner of ours. Yeah. Yeah, they're one of our partners.
Is there any way for someone to kind of come and visit and see what you guys do?
Yeah. So I do have, for once in my life, I do have cards. Please come get a card. You can email me. Chelsea, who is my supervisor, is our associate director of engagement. Come send me an email, send her an email. We'd love to set up some little tour for your organization to come see the drum, see Decision Theater in Brickyard. Come see me. Tell her how great I was. All right. Twice. That's not how auctions work, but I'm thrice. All right. Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys. I know I'm the last one. I appreciate the interaction. I'll be up here for like 10, 20, like whatever, how much time I have left. Yeah. Have a fantastic day, and I hope your commute is great.